Hello, everyone. My name's Rach. I'm a very grateful, recovered alcoholic and addict. I'm so grateful to be here. Thank you, Steve, for that introduction and all the service that you do. I felt a little bit in self earlier, and I messaged Steve. I was like, oh, I feel a bit nervous about this. This is the big book compendium. You've got some heavyweight big bookers on this meeting. And I've got that little alcoholic head voice that goes, oh, but you're not that good enough. And Steve was like, Rach, it's a book study. Just talk about the steps. I was like, okay, this is fine. This is not about me. This is about this incredible, step, and this incredible book and this solution. And I can actually talk about it all day, probably. So thank you for the opportunity to be of service. So step 12, if you've got your big books handy, let's go to the page where the steps are. Step 12 is on page 60. And I love all of the steps. But this one, it says, having had a spiritual awakening. And past tense, I've had this. So by this point, I come in completely powerless. And the whole point of this program, the whole point of these 12 steps is that I'm promised, I'm like, it's guaranteed that if I thoroughly follow this path, I can have a spiritual awakening. And so it's saying by this point, having had a spiritual awakening, and I love that word awakening, because it's like, if I think about the two alternatives on page 25, it says, I've got two alternatives. One is to go on till the bitter end, blotting out the consciousness of my intolerable situation as best I can. And the other is to accept spiritual help. So by this point, it's like I'm becoming awake. I'm becoming awake to the solution, to God, to spirituality, to myself. It can be quite painful sometimes looking at myself, seeing the truth for the first time. So having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, and this book, I don't want to be patronizing to anyone because I know this is a heavyweight meeting, but I still hear people say as a result of these steps, and it was pointed out it's the result of these steps. So that's the first part of the step. We try to carry this message to alcoholics, plural, alcoholics. This is an ongoing thing, hopefully for the rest of my life. And this message is dotted around everywhere in this book. I was taken back to that page again, page 25, where it says, we have found much of heaven and we've been rocketed into the fourth dimension of existence. My whole life has been revolutionized, the way I look at God's, God's creation and God's people. But if I just think about it personally, this message is that I was drinking and using myself to death. It was a slow and painful suicide. I was retracting from life, retracting from my family. I was becoming an empty shell of a woman. And now I'm shouting about this message, this spiritual solution, which has not only prevented me from picking up a mind-altering substance for over 4.5 years, it's actually, I've been reborn. And that's this message, and that it's free. Obviously we've got our seventh tradition, but I can get this stuff to the degree of what I put into it, and it can come and go, and I'm not always in absolute faith, but I always have a baseline faith, and I never had that before. I now feel like I can get through anything in life without the need to pick up a mind-altering substance, as long contingent on my spiritual maintenance and health. So carry this message to alcoholics. So there's the second part of the step, and to practice these principles in all of our affairs. And I love the fact that it says, you know, again, I do a book study on a Thursday and it's so thorough. And I was asking Steve about the format of this meeting, and you know, he sort of chilled me out a little bit. He was like, just do step 12 out of the book. But I was thinking, in our book study, we do 2 pages in like 45 minutes. So I'll just try to, you know, I'll just go with the flow. So that word practice, what does that mean? It's a lovely word because it means that I don't have to do it perfectly. I just need to show up. I just need to try, right? I just need to be willing. I just need to take action. I just need to practice. These principles, these beautiful principles, our 12 steps, our 12 traditions, and our 12 concepts. You know, I've done some traditions workshops. I've got a sort of basic understanding. I've done a little concept workshop. I've got less of an understanding, but we've got 36 spiritual principles. And that's infinite learning about how to show up in life and how to be of service to other people and practice these principles in all our affairs, right? And I really hone into all of these words, and it's like in all of our affairs, not just in recovery, in meetings, in fellowship, in unity. How am I showing up to my family, you know, to my loved ones who know me the most and who can do my head in the most? So the 3 parts to that beautiful step. And so we're going to go over to page 89, where chapter 7, working with others. And I love these little coinky dinks or like fun facts about the big book. And I like to show people visuals as well, because I'm quite a slow learner and I like to have the knowledge in all the different ways. And this here is page 1 to page 88. Okay, so there's 88 pages here, and that's steps 1 to 11. They're all contained in there. Isn't that amazing? This is like magic, right? That this has revolutionized my whole attitude to not just mine, but all of the millions of people around the world who are saying the same thing. So there's 88 pages there. And then we've got step 12. And that is that much. And there are 76 pages just on this one step. Okay, 88 pages on 1 to 11 and 76 pages on just one step. So that to me indicates the importance. How many pages are in between? 12. Obviously, it's got to be 12. Like all of these, you know, brilliant little. There are 12 pages difference from 1 to 11 and step 12, which I just think is incredible. So let's get into it. Chapter 7, working with others. Practical experience shows. So this is evidence, this is action, this is practical experience. Lived experience shows, it proves that nothing, that's a strong word, and this was published 85 years ago. So nothing will so much ensure immunity from drinking as intensive work with other alcoholics. So from the very beginning of the book, in the foreword to the 2nd edition, where it says it is vital, it also indicates that strenuous work with others is vital to permanent recovery. That's before we've even started getting into doctor's opinion, or as Bill sees it. And now it's telling us again, intensive work with other alcoholics. It means to be inconvenienced, right? It goes on to tell us. It works when other activities fail. This is our 12th suggestion. Carry this message to other alcoholics. You know, again, that message about being absolutely our whole world being revolutionized. I've gone from page 62 being selfish and self-centered. That is the root of my trouble, driven by 100 forms of fear and self-delusion, to now wanting, needing, knowing that I have to work with others. And even that word, working with others, working, it means using my mind, my body, my soul. I'm giving something away. I'm working with others. And in my original book, it says, you know, working with others is not optional. My first three sponsees never worked with anyone. I don't actually know where they are today. Carry this message to other alcoholics, plural. You can help when no one else can. You can secure their confidence when others fail. Remember, they are very ill. You know, it tells us back on, it tells us throughout the book as well. And this is our joint experience, that people have tried all these other methods. You know, there are loads of outside issues, and that's fantastic to get those outside issues dealt with and seen to. But for alcoholism and addiction, there's a solution, a spiritual solution, which is guaranteed to work. So remember that they are very ill. And then this is just beautiful, isn't it? The promises, life will take on new meaning. And that is just beautiful, because it's like, what did life mean to me before? It was just, I was driven by self, absolutely driven by self. And now today, the meaning of my life is, what can I give? What is my purpose? To use my darkest days to help someone else. And magically, and to be honest, there's been loads of times where I haven't even wanted to do that. You know, where it's inconvenient, where I'd rather sort my house out or go and do something for myself. But each and every time I do it, I do this work with others, I get this feeling of peace and serenity that you can't buy. It's priceless. It's like God is paying me in serenity, you know. So life will take on new meaning, to watch people recover, to see them help others, to watch loneliness vanish, to see a fellowship grow up about you, to have a host of friends. This is an experience you must not miss. And I love the musts in this book. I'm actually going to make a sign. I'm going to make a big, like, glittery POW sign that has must on it, because it's just a cool word, isn't it? And it's like, when that saying of, like, don't quit before the miracle starts. You know, whenever I hear anyone in pain in this program, there are just two questions I ask whenever I hear anybody in pain. Two questions. One is, have you completed all 12 steps? Have you done them all? Have you done them all in is it chronological order? As laid out, right? With all of your heart and soul. And the other question is, are you sponsoring? Are you giving this thing away? Because if I'm not doing that, then it's no wonder I'm still trapped in the bondage of self. I've been given this amazing gift of freedom. I've been released from the bondage of self, and then I'm like, okay, thanks. See you later. I'm missing out. I'm missing out on the gift. And nobody feels ready. Like, I didn't feel ready, the sponsor. I didn't know that I was going to turn into the crazy big book lady that I am today. Okay. But here I am. And when my sponsor, she used to get so excited every time I had an issue or problem, she was like, oh, I know where that is in the big book. And I was just like, oh, really? And now I am that woman. I am proud to be that woman. So perhaps you are not acquainted with any drinkers who want to recover. You can easily find some by asking a few doctors, ministers, priests, or hospitals. They will be only too glad to assist you. I feel so lucky today to be in recovery and to have an abundant flow of newcomers. I can be such a lazy sponsor because all I need to do to pick up a new sponsee is pray. I first of all pray. And I was speaking to someone about this earlier, is I just need to share a message of depth and weight. I just need to carry this message, even if I don't want to share, even if I'd just like to kick back and, I try not to ever, have my video off if I'm on a meeting, not saying anything about the people on here, but, I encourage newcomers to kind of participate and have their cameras on. And I said, like, if you're looking for a sponsee, just unmute, put your hand up and carry this message and say what's happened to you. And when you do that, it's like fishing. Somebody out there is dying of this illness. And if you share your simple story, what's happened to you with authenticity, and hope, somebody is going to grab hold of that bait and even inquire, well, what are you doing? How did you do it? And even just whether you sponsor or not, even just helping newcomers. And a little thing that I sort of forget to do sometimes, and I've recently redone it, is I just write a little list of the newcomers that I speak to. So whenever I take a newcomer's number, I used to give them mine. I used to give newcomers mine. But no newcomer wants to pick up the phone to a random stranger and say, oh, I didn't want to. I couldn't stand the sound of my own voice to myself. It was so weird that all these people were giving me their number and then saying, call me. It was just like weird. So now I get people's numbers and I put them in my phone as newcomer. Now I put in where I met them or what city so I can remember, because but also just writing down their names so I can follow up with these people, because these people dying can get lost. And I know it's up to them. It is up to them, but I need this thing too, right? I need this thing too. And recently, like, I'm in a little bit of a personal, transition, which is uncomfortable, painful. And it's like, this is the stuff that I need. I need to be speaking to those newcomers. I need to be reminded about what it felt like when I came in. I need to be being useful and helpful to someone to get out of myself, So, sorry, ran off on a tangent just because it says, like, back in the day, 85 years ago, it's like, just phone your doctors, ministers, priests. They had to go and search and seek out these people. Now I can just jump on a newcomers meeting, do a share, speak directly to that newcomer, and put my number in the chat, have a call to action, say I'm available for sponsorship. Is anybody struggling? Does anybody want to talk about this solution? I can help, It says, don't start out as an evangelist or a reformer. I've actually got into a little bit of pain around this recently. An evangelist is a person who seeks to convert others to the Christian faith, especially by public preaching. Ooh. So, and a reformer is a person who makes changes in order to improve something. So because I work in the field and because I really care about humans, like, dying of this illness, and not having a clear message. So I've been told that I'm a bit too, like, pushy. I'm a bit too inspiring, or I'm a bit too, like, trying to convert people, because when people come and talk about their problem, I'm like, right, let's go to the book. Let's see what it says in the book. Let's follow the clear-cut direction. And that's where I'm at. now at this stage of my recovery. That's what helped me. I needed somebody to not just tell me, oh, this is what I think about recovery. This is what, I needed somebody to show me so that I could go back to it, so that I felt confident I knew where it was in the book, so that I could then become the teacher instead of the student. And that's when I got rocketed into this fourth dimension, because when I read the book with a newcomer, it was like, I've never read the book before. It was magic. I had read it before, I'd read it with my sponsor, but I was the student. And when I became the messenger, it had a whole new meaning. It was magic. So this is an ongoing, learning process for me about being an evangelist or reformer. Everyone's at where they're at. I can just lay the spiritual tools, and I've learned to chill out with people who aren't so ready and give it to the people who really, really want it. For some people like me, and they're like, I want it all. Give it to me, like show me, teach me. And other people are like, chill out. I'm not quite there yet. And that's okay, So unfortunately, a lot of prejudice exists. You will be handicapped if you arouse it. Ministers, and that goes into what I was just saying about people, sort of saying it's a tricky one. It's a tricky one, especially when working in the field, because it's like it's tricky because there are other professionals that are saying that their field is sort of more important than this spiritual solution, and it's kind of like that ongoing battle, or not battle. I don't want it to be a battle. I want it to be like a working together, working alongside each other as a team. But where we can spread this message will help with this, with this prejudice. So ministers and doctors are competent, and you can learn much from them if you wish. But it happens that because of your own drinking experience, you can be uniquely useful to other alcoholics. I love that. My sponsee, one of my sponsees is just like incredible, and all of them are incredible. But when you learn stuff from your sponsees, and it's magic. And she said once, it's just stuck with me. She said about a snowflake. Each snowflake is like individual, and think about just one droplet of snow having its own unique pattern of like icicles, mini thing, and it's like two snowflakes that kind of fit. They just kind of fit, and their stories are similar, or their vibe is similar. And that experience of going through this work with someone and having another spiritual experience is incredible. It is something that you must not miss, right? I mean, I'm not trying to be an evangelist or a reformer, mind, but it is incredible. as we know, and uniquely useful to other alcoholics. So cooperate, never criticize. And then this bit, I love this line, and there's so many beautiful lines that are so powerful in this book. To be helpful is our only aim. And I love that. And I've done some cross references, but you don't have to jump back if you don't want, but I'll kind of read them out. So these were just a few, but so to be helpful is our only aim. It's throughout the whole book, isn't it? And page 77 jumps to mind, where it says, our real purpose, beautiful word, purpose. Our real purpose is to fit ourselves, to be of maximum service to God and the people about us. That's to be helpful, right? That's my whole purpose now, is to fit myself to be of maximum service to God and the people about us. So I loved that as a reference. Then we've got page 97, which is a bit further on than we've read, than we're here at the moment. But I love where it said, like second paragraph, helping others is the foundation stone of your recovery. it's saying it's the foundation stone. It's the base. It's what everything else is built upon. You know, a kindly act once in a while isn't enough. Another one, 70. I won't do too many. Let me see what I wrote down here. 70. Oh yeah. So on the sex ideal, it says, if sex is very troublesome, we throw ourselves the harder into helping others. And you can take the word sex out and you can just say, if anything is very troublesome, we throw ourselves the harder into helping others. So this clear-cut direction is going again and again and again and again. And let me just look at this one last one and I'll see if it's worthy, because I know I'm banging on a lot about being helpful. But it is, it is the transformation that happens from step 1 to step 12, helping others. This is what it's all about. Okay, just another one on 102, if you're interested. Second from the last paragraph, it says, your job now is to be at the place where you may be of maximum helpfulness to others. So never hesitate to go anywhere you can be helpful. There were some other references, but I didn't want to go too deep into the old cross references. So when you discover a prospect from Alcoholics Anonymous, you can find out all you can about him. If he does not want to, so this is a little bit interesting. I'd love to know what you guys think after, because my first big book sponsor, she didn't actually ask me a lot about myself when we went through the steps. She explained to me that she's going to get to know me very well when we do step 5. And I quite like that, actually. I remember in my early days, I was a little bit like, why doesn't she want to hear all about my story? My violin ready. Why isn't she interested? I'm so important. I've got so much stuff to tell her. And in a way, I kind of see her logic was that you're really unwell. Anything you say at this stage, you're not going to feel once you get into the work. So I quite liked that boundary, actually. But here it's saying, find out all you can about him. And I've had another sponsor since, which we had an initial meeting, and we told each other about our stories. I've got a horrific memory. It's really, really bad. So I now just write the initial of the sponsee and have a book where I just take a few notes, because I always have multiple sponsees. It can be tricky to remember, everybody's story and all the newcomers that you're speaking to. So sometimes having a little folder can help with that. And then you're not re-asking questions, even though sometimes I do that. So find out all you can about him. If he does not want to stop drinking, big question mark. This is such a good question. And I always ask sponsees all the way through the book, do you still want this? Are you still willing to go to any lengths? My sponsor said to me once, it's a very big difference from I need to stop to I want to stop. She was like, listen out, ask people, are you ready to quit for good and all? And if they say I need to, it's a little bit concerning. Don't waste time trying to persuade him. There's that persuading again. You may spoil a later opportunity. And I remember in my early days, kind of chasing newcomers, chasing them. It doesn't work. No one gets into it until they're completely ready, right? This advice is given for the family also. They should be patient, realizing they are dealing with a sick person. Again, I love these reminders. I don't do it so much anymore, but I remember massively changing my schedule to work with newcomers. And then the newcomer, being very sick, very unwell, didn't show up or whatever. And me copping a resentment because I'm like, I've, I've, I've changed the schedule. My mum's got the kids, or I went out of my way and then you didn't show up. And I remember that day the penny dropped and it was like, well, don't change anything. This has to be a two-way street. And remember, these people are very ill. They might not know that, they might not believe or feel or understand that actually this thing will work if they work it, and that it will be, and it can be better than they've ever expected it to be. If there is any indication that he wants to stop, have a good talk with the person most interested in him, usually his wife. Get an idea of his behavior, his problems, his background, the seriousness of his condition, and his religious leanings. You need this information to put yourself in his place to see how you would like him to approach you if the tables were turned. So again, this was written like it was published 85 years ago. So I feel so lucky that I don't have to do all of this today. Today, there is this flow of newcomers where I can have this conversation. Are you ready? Are you willing? We can qualify people and have a chat about their drinking, using, whatever they're misusing, and get into the work. How convenient is that? So when I hear people say, oh no, I haven't got a sponsee, I'm waiting for one to show up, or it just hasn't happened yet. I feel for the person who isn't sponsoring as much as I feel for those people without sponsors. Because what I say to people who have just gone through the work is I say, are you going to get any more confident with the book once you've gone further away from it? Because my sponsor said to me, she said, as soon as you're through this work, put your hand up to give it away. And we were in the same home group, so I couldn't even get away with it. I didn't feel ready, but I had to put my hand up, and it was the best thing ever that she could have advised me to do, because it meant that as soon as I went through this work, I was giving it away. That's the only reason I feel confident with the big book, is because I've taken women through it, and because I study it, because I like it, but when I hear people saying that they, it's like, how are you going to get confident with it then? It doesn't just come. And if it's an hour a week, I don't know, if I was going to just one book study an hour a week, but not sponsoring, I'm not having the same experience with the book. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's wise to wait till he goes on a binge. The family may object to this, but unless he is in a dangerous physical condition, it is better to risk it. Don't, right, one sec. Yeah, so again, just thinking about that, not chasing. Sorry, I was getting distracted because I was thinking there was me telling Steve, am I going to be able to do an hour? We're 40 minutes in. Sorry, not. Okay, so I'll just move on a little bit. Don't deal with him when he is very drunk, unless he is ugly and the family needs your help. So here's an interesting one. So I actually crossed out, in my original book, I crossed out very drunk, because in my early days, I had lots of conversations with alcoholics who were drunk at the time of me trying to have conversations with them. And it was advised to me that, look, there's no point while they're drinking, because they will want to chew your ear off, but you don't know how drunk they are. You don't know how much they've been drinking. You don't know, their brain is not cleared or befogged. Be kind and say to them, like, can you get to a meeting? Call me when you're sober. all of these things. And I remember hearing Howard Ebert do a book study, and he went, well, if you don't speak to someone when they're drunk, if you don't speak to an alcoholic when they're drunk, when are you going to ever speak to them? Because they're powerless and they can't stop drinking. So it doesn't, so I guess it's like learning, what to say. And this is the beauty of this program, that there's no right or wrong. Every single time I speak to a newcomer, I'm just practicing my approach. I'm just practicing how I carry this message. I've got off the phone to newcomers before and gone, that was a bit rubbish. I don't think I did very well there. I think I wasn't clear. Maybe I confused them a little bit more. But hey, I'm trying and I can follow up, So wait for the end of a spree, or at least a lucid interval. Then let his family or a friend ask him if he wants to quit. So there we go. We've got that question again. Do you want to quit? Are you willing? And it says for good. And if you would go to any extreme to do so. I love the definiteness of the wording. Am I willing? I like asking myself these questions. I'm at step 12 now. Maybe I'm a little bit like comfortable. I'm a little bit complacent. I'm like, yeah, life is getting good again. I'm getting work offers. Feel better in my, I'm sleeping better. Am I still willing to go to any extreme still, no matter how far into my recovery I am? If he says yes, then his attention should be drawn to you as a person who has recovered. Oh, there's that word again, the controversial recovering, recovered. But this book gives great direction. And it says that, it teaches us, it's telling us this whole, these last chapters are saying, they're giving great, direction about how to carry this message. And we know, because we're in the program, that anybody saying, what you need to do, is just not going to work. So now you've asked the question, are you willing? Do you want to get well? Are you willing to go to any extreme? And then you start talking about myself as a person who has recovered. I haven't picked up a mind-altering substance for 4.5 years. It's a miracle. It's a miracle. You should be described to him as one of a fellowship who, as a part of their own recovery, try to help others who will be glad to talk to him if he cares to see you. So again, like the whole book is telling us over and over again that I need this. I'm going to do this. There's a couple of women on here that have seen me do it before, but I just find it so profound, and it's just stuck with me. And I'm quite a visual sort of person. And my great grand sponsor was in a meeting, and he was sharing, and he was doing this action, and it was like a circular motion with his hands, and he was swaying back and forth as he was doing it. He did this action for so long that it was weird. Like in the room, we were all like looking at each other, like, does he know how long he's been doing this thing, this round thing? And what he was explaining was that to get this power in, you can see my arms, to get this power in, oh, 1 second, am I doing it the wrong way? Yes, I'm doing it the wrong way. Okay, it's that way. So to get this power in, I need to give it away. And the more I give it away, the more power I get in. And then he went, as soon as I stop giving away this power, I'm blocked. I'm just blocked. And for me, my experience is that I very quickly go back into the bondage of self. I can't get any of God's love. I'm not this clear vessel that I need to be to channel this message. So I loved that kind of action. And because it's circular, it's just like give it away, give it away, give it away as much as I can. There we go. If he does not want to see you, never force yourself upon him. Neither should the family hysterically plead with him to do anything, nor should they tell him much about you. He should wait for the end of his next drinking bout. You might place this book where he can see it in an interval. Here, no specific rule can be given. Again, I just want to point out that how lucky we are that people show up and we don't have to deal with this. You know, it talks about in this chapter, you know, about dealing with the family and we just get people who show up and are broken, and we get an opportunity to kind of share this message. So the family must decide these things, but urge them to not be over anxious, for that might spoil matters. And that's a really tricky thing to do. You know, we've got to the family afterwards and we've got to wives, and it's like, I just have so much respect for this book, you know, and the fact that they fit so much into so little pages, you know, 164 pages, and it's helped so many people. But obviously, how did they get such a broad thing down to such little words? It just blows me away. So they had to be kind of short with their, you know, urge people not to be over anxious. I mean, that's but it's the truth though, isn't it? Because any family member going, are you going to go to a meeting? Have you called the person back? That guy wants to help you. Are you going to, like, it just, we're repelled. We just go the other way. We've had our friends and family try this before. So I wonder whether I should kind of jump to some bits with the last 10 minutes, or whether I should continue. I don't know. Let me ask. Okay, I'm gonna jump a little bit just because we'll only get through a little bit more. Thanks for sticking with me. And yeah, I really love this literature. I love breaking it down, you know. I love finding like such deep meaning even in the small little intricate things. And you know what, my mind can forget so much. I can take someone through the work, and by the time I've gone back through it, I know the words, but I forgot stuff, you know what I mean? So it's great to go through it. On page 92, I'm just going to kind of skip through just with the time that we've got. On page 92, the second paragraph down, it says, if you are satisfied that he is a real alcoholic, begin to dwell on the hopeless feature of the malady. And it talks about this real alcoholic a couple of times throughout the book. You know, and Dr. Silkworth, bless his heart, you know, he helped us understand the hopelessness of this condition. And without that step one experience, admitting that I am powerless, I'm not going to go ahead with the rest of the steps, you know. And it talks on this page about the mental twist and the queer mental condition, and it refers to you know, it refers to, you know what, rather than get caught up because I don't have that much time, but in there it refers to, oh yeah, the real alcoholic. That's what I was thinking about. On this page also, there's a lot of deathly words, which again just reiterates this hopelessness of the malady. Another important fact on this page is it says, be careful not to brand him as an alcoholic. So I've got a little cross-reference there to page 44, you know, where we do the qualifying question. And I always remember the place in the book. I love remembering the places in the book, but chapter 4, page 44, 4 lines down. That's where the qualifying questions are. So yeah, the words on the bottom of this page: fatal, doomed, hopelessness, poison. I'm sure poison is on this page. I can't see it now. But yeah, let me just think. The other bit in this chapter that I love is on page 94. And it says on the second paragraph down, it says, actually, I'm going to read from outline the program of action. I never get tired of hearing program of action. It reminds me that this is a set of, it's a method, it's a formula, it's a step-by-step program of action, you know. And in here it talks about the different steps. So how you made a self-appraisal, step 4, how you straightened out your past, step 8 and 9, and why you are now endeavoring to be helpful to him, step 12. It is important for him to realize that your attempt to pass this on to him plays a vital part in your own recovery. I like asking myself questions and just putting them out there. Have you or I ever been without a sponsee? And just a question to ask yourself is how that felt. Because I haven't ever been without a sponsee, but I have had like annoying periods of stagnation. You know what I mean? Like where circumstances there, you know, I had one sponsee and it went over such a long period of time that we weren't in the flow, you know, and it didn't feel great. But I didn't feel great, you know. I can very quickly get restless, irritable, and discontented. And it's like I need to be giving this stuff away. So, but I love the fact that it says it's important for him to realize. So, you know, my sponsor, I'll tell you this bit. So actually, he may be helping you more than you are helping him. I love that bit. I love that bit. My sponsor used to say that to me. She was like, you know that you're helping me more. And I just couldn't believe her. I just felt like such a pathetic waste of space that it was like, she must be lying. She must be trying to make me feel better. But now I get it. You know, make it plain that he's under no obligation to you. I love this bit as well. That you hope only that he will try to help other alcoholics when he escapes his own difficulties. So, you know, those 3 sponsees that I told you about, my first ever sponsees, and they never worked with others. And since then, I've got a little list. I don't know if this is right or wrong. This is just my experience. Because this book is like 164 pages of pure gold with the doctor's opinion, there's so much in there of depth to study that I felt I've basically written a list of 12 things. It happened to be 12. And they're like what I call commitments that I send to sponsees. And it's only the stuff that I do myself. But in a way, it was like, it was so much for them to remember. Okay, you know, so what I put on the first thing after these 3 sponsees weren't willing to give this away, now the first commitment is that I be totally willing to sponsor someone as soon as I'm through my 12 steps. And why is that important? Because without giving this stuff away, I'm not able to stay sober and clean. I'm never going to feel I'm never going to feel that feeling of being rocketed into the fourth dimension. I'm going to stay kind of wrapped in the bondage of self. So obviously, in time, I'm going to pick up, because I don't like being sober and clean without a solution. This is the thing that kind of makes, you know, it gives me life, if you know what I mean. So how did I get onto that tangent? Yeah, so my only hope, it says that you hope only that they will try help other alcoholics when he escapes his own difficulties, because, you know, I know the joy that can come from doing that, the magic, the indescribable feeling, the goosebumps, the tingles, the spiritual awakenings, the psychic change, the transformation that happens when doing this work. So suggest how important it is that he place the welfare of other people ahead of his own. Again, there is that message through and through the book, that to get out of self, to get out of that horrible, painful, discontent place of self, I've got to help others. So I know that there's so much in here, but I'm just aware of time. So what I'll just do, okay, one sec. I'm going to finish up in a sec, but on page 100, second paragraph down. Oh, I love this bit. It actually makes me emotional. Both you and the new man must walk day by day in the path of spiritual progress. You know why I love that bit so much? Because it's like that kind of humble connection together, side by side, day by day, shoulder to shoulder, you know, trudging the road of happy destiny. Just find it so beautiful. If you persist, remarkable things will happen. That has been my experience. Remarkable things will happen. When we look back, we realize that the things which came to us, this is where my step 2 comes in. I came to believe because these things came to me, remarkable things came to me when we put ourselves in God's hands. And it still continues to happen. I've experienced this pain of like self-centered fear. I want things to go my way. I'm worried about this or I'm worried about that. And as soon as I go, oh yeah, I've got step 3, I can get on my knees and remind myself that I've made a decision to turn my will and my life over to the care of God. As soon as I stop trying to control and let go, these things come to me. As soon as I help others, these things seem to fall at my feet. Not everything that I want, but the things that I need. And place it in God's hands were better than anything we could have planned. I remember hearing in someone share once, they said, thank God that my will didn't come true. Thank God I didn't get what I wanted, because my selfish little brain it can't comprehend this meaning of contentment and serenity. It didn't understand. My understanding of what success and contentment and serenity was superficial. It was egoic. It was not real. It was synthetic. It was fleeting and soon lost. Follow the dictates of a higher power and you will presently, love that word, presently, in the now, presently, live in a new and wonderful world. And that's the same world that I was living in before, but I couldn't see it. I saw it through the warped, angry, fearful, aggro, painful, selfish, needy, clinging, clawing eyes. It's the same wonderful world, but now I'm just like, oh my God, have you seen the colours in that leaf? Like, that's God right there in that leaf. Just like, honestly, it's ridiculous, but it's not. It's kind of cool. So no matter what your present circumstances, Let me just think. I am eternally grateful for this clear-cut direction that leads me to this. This is like the cherry on the cake, because I've gone through this deep inner work, finding God and letting go and seeing the truth and making amends and seeing myself for who I am. Now I get to use that pain, that darkness, that understanding to just share and give to someone else. And because of that, I get this peace and contentment that I've never experienced in my whole life ever. I'm happier now in my life than I ever have been, thanks to this program, this book that's led me to a God of my understanding. So thank you so much for listening. And I hope that was all right, Steve, with my little weird format. And I can't wait to hear from you guys. Thank you so much.